Yo, guys, tomato sauce in here. How are you? It has been a long time since I have done any Wrath of the Lich King content, and I got an itch, right? I've been back in Wrath of the Lich King for the last 3 weeks. I didn't immediately, actually more like the last month, I didn't immediately start pumping out Wrath content for the channel because I didn't want to do a disservice to the tier. But I believe that I've progressed enough at this point to where I can come back to you guys and give you some good information, right? Some solid information on how to play a few of these classes, right? Tonight, we're going to be talking about Fury Warrior and Wrath of the Lich King Classic. That's right, guys. I have not put out a Fury-only video ever, right? It hasn't been done. I've always focused on Arms Warrior in Wrath of the Lich King and in TBC with the big kebab crazy builds, but now we're kebabbing with two-handers, getting ready to go into Trial of the Crusader. That comes out in June 22nd, along with the Onyxia raid. So between Ulduar 10-man, 25-man, Nax, deadly PvP gear being extremely cheap, you have no excuse to not come back to Wrath of the Lich King and absolutely pump on your warrior, because we're going into some heavy warrior happy phases. The armor penetration is starting to heat up. So let's talk about it, right? Again, guys, I've been back for about a month. Cleared Yogg 0 on 10 and 25 man, along with Algalon, done all of the hard mode content in Ulduar. I wish I was here for the whole tier, because then I'd have some higher geared characters, right? I'm actually playing my combat rogue, my kebab rogue, my unholy death knight, and my warrior. I dusted him off. You guys will see he looks a little bit different. He's got my name from retail now as well. Tomato God X. I had to come back when I heard that there were race changes. Boys, I've been on the Tauren for far too long, and although it's fun, Undead Warrior is the absolutely bis-looking race, right? It might not be the best for, getting those 100 parses, but God, does this look good? And when people go up against this in Arena next season, they will be absolutely shaking, because this dance will be coming out full speed, right, boys? Absolutely bis-looking race. Undead Warrior, our boy Wreckful, right? I've been feeling sentimental about him lately. I guess maybe it's his birthday coming through recently, but I had to go with the Undead Warrior in honor of Anti-Side, in honor of Undead being the best race on the Horde in general. Just bis looks, period, the end. So we're here, boys. But let's talk about what you're actually here for, the Fury Warrior Guide. As we come into the next phase of Ulduar, we'll go through the talents really quick. There's 2 different ways to play it, right? You have your standard Fury Warrior build, and then you have this new build where Fury is trying to be an Arms Warrior, and they're grabbing Overpower and Improved Rend. I don't recommend those versions of the build because you can definitely make some mistakes, right? Rock an Improved Rend and Overpower. Essentially, you never want to dump with 100 Rage on Improved Rend or Overpower. So if you're not comfortable with that play style, Fury has enough button pressing already to where if you're comfortable with heroic strike queues, you could still get 99 parses if you have all the gear. And you don't want to dance between, am I an Arms Warrior or am I a Fury Warrior? Am I a Fury Warrior, right? So you don't have to do all that nonsense. But let's go into the first talent build. This is the one that I enjoy playing the most. And we'll go row by row, right? I go 3 out of 3 Armored to the Teeth, 5 out of 5 Cruelty, 4 out of 4 Unbridled Wrath, 3 out of 3 Improved Cleave, because Fury Warrior absolutely cleaves, right? This is a great talent that you have the ability to pick up in Fury. And, it's not like a huge DPS gain. Your cleave isn't doing 120% more damage. It's just the bonus damage done by cleave that's doing more damage. But since you're going 52 in Fury anyway, you can pick it up because this is like one of the better PvE talents, you know, for like dungeons and any fights where there's cleave and even trash, right? Then we go 5 out of 5 dual wield specialization. That's going to increase your offhand damage. 2 out of 2 improved execute. We're going to pair that up with the glyph of execute as well. Death Wish 1 out of 1. Big damage cooldown that you no longer get in arms. This is great for Fury though. As you can see, it's on my Alt-1 keybind down here, along with Blood Rage and my Boom macro, which is Recklessness and Trinkets, etc. Right? So Fury feels pretty fun to play because you actually have those cooldown periods that you don't really have in arms. And in Wrath, Death Wish is still a very long cooldown, right? So it only costs you 10 rage to activate, but it lasts 30 seconds. So that's going to last through your haste pot. Yeah, it's just an all-around great cooldown to have. It's much better if you're lusting on pull, because like it becomes a better cooldown if you're lusting on pull, because then you can have a haste pot going for almost the entirety of your Death Wish, because you'll pre-pot at like 1 to 2 seconds with a haste pot. And then, you know, as that haste pot's expiring, you know, actually, no, you'll get it on the next one. So forget I even said that. But yeah, it's still better if you get it on pull, because it's a 2-minute cooldown, and every fight in Ulduar, you would be able to get a second use out of this unless you're cheesing Freya with your group. But yeah, Death Wish, very, very cool cooldown. Then we go 5 out of 5 Flurry. This is going to increase your attack speed by 25%. 3 out of 3 Intensify Rage. Reduces the cooldown of our Blood Rage, Berserker Rage, Recklessness, and Death Wish abilities by 33%. That's why it's a 2-minute cooldown now. Bloodthirst, this is one of our main attacks. Scales great with attack power, so it's really starting to hit as we get into these later phases. Improved Whirlwind, just more Whirlwind damage. We're going to pair this with another glyph that's going to make it even better. Improved Berserker Stance, 20% more strength, and a threat reduction, which we're really going to need as we start coming out of Ulduar. Honestly, there's 5k plus gear score Fury Warriors with Mjolnir right now that are just absolutely cracking. I've gotten to play with a few of them on my Rogue and on my Death Knight. But yeah, we're coming back heavy, you know, because it's time. It's time to dust off your warrior. If you've kept it somewhat active, you know, throughout Wrath of the Lich King, you know, now is the time to get it in a guild and start gearing it up, because it's about to start ripping and roaring, especially if you can catch it up before Trial comes out. But if not, Trial's an incredible catch-up phase with Trial of the Crusader and the Onyxia raid, and along with Ulduar gear dropping from the new heroic dungeons as well, the new heroic pluses. So you're going to be able to catch up very quickly in the next phase of Wrath. But if you can go in with a little bit of a head start, you know, that's always good, right? Plus, it's nice to know the fights, get back into the thick and thin of things. Now, there's some builds that take Rampage, some builds that don't take Rampage. I always take Rampage on my Fury Warrior build because I may not have that buff in a 5-man. And, you know, if you're geared and you're in a good raid, you'll be able to parse 99s, you know, with the Rampage build and without the Rampage build, you know, because you can move this 1 point elsewhere. But I like to have it for other forms of content and 10-man raids, obviously. Blood Surge, your Heroic Strike, Bloodthirst, and Whirlwind have a 20% chance of making your next slam instant for 5 seconds. If you have an interesting gearing situation like me, that this will actually bump your slam priority even higher than it usually is. And I'll show you what I mean by that when we get into the gearing, right? I'll show you where I've gotten to in one lockout. My Fury Warrior was 4,100 gear score. In this lockout, I have, you know, taken it up a few notches, right? We're actually almost 4,600 now off of one lockout. So that was, it was a good lockout, very good lockout for the Warrior. Then we're going 5 out of 5 in Unending Fury. Increases the damage done by your Slam, Whirlwind, and Bloodthirst abilities by 10%. Again, right? So you got your Improved Whirlwind, you got more Whirlwind damage, and you got a Glyph of Whirlwind that's lowering the cooldown. So yeah, we'll get to those glyphs. Titan's Grip, it's what we're all here for on Fury Warrior. You know, you can wield two-handers. So I'm rocking Iron Soul in my main hand, Betrayer of Humanity in my offhand, because Iron Soul has higher top end, while Betrayer has lower top end and is a little bit quicker. This is actually simmed out that this is the better setup for this. So even though Betrayer is one item level higher, because Iron Soul has the higher top end damage, you're going to want to keep that in your main hand if you have a similar setup to me. But we'll get into all the gearing in a second. So that's how you're going to spend your Fury talents. We're not going to spend anything in protection. And let's go into the arms talent tree. We're going to go 3 out of 3 improved heroic strike. I run 2 out of 2 rend because there are times where I do drop the rend, even though I don't, really care to run the rending glyph. Sometimes I'll charge in on a boss because I'm in battle stance. I'll start the fight with a rend, and then I'll go into my berserker stance macro and just start rocking Fury. It's like a free little rage dump when you get to the boss. If there are bosses where it's okay for you to charge in and not get one shot because you get there before your tank. So there are some bosses that you can do that on. And I'd rather have the 2 points in a damage ability rather than just like sitting in parry for PvE. Sometimes you do wish you had that extra parry though. Then I go 2 out of 3 Iron Will, 3 out of 3 Tactical Mastery. Again, the Tactical Mastery is so I can swap between stances if I do want to drop that rend and retain a little bit of extra rage. Also, it's nice when you have to, save a pull by going into defensive stance with your shield macro and, taunting an ad and kind of holding that and having a little bit of extra rage there. I love Tac Mast. I try to take it whenever I can. Then we're taking Anger Management. It's just more rage so that you can constantly be dumping with Heroic Strike. One mistake I see a lot of warriors making in these pugs that I'm in on my warrior is they just don't Heroic Strike enough. On Fury, you want to Heroic Strike a ton. You always want to be Heroic Strike queuing if your rage is super low, watching your swing timers, or if you just kind of have the feel for it now after playing it for so long, right? You want to always Heroic Strike Q to gain more rage back. And then, you want to be dumping a lot of rage with Heroic Strikes. I try to Q. Basically, if I'm at 35 plus rage, I'm queuing Heroic Strike with either an Instant Slam, a Bloodthirst, or a Whirlwind. You need to get into that habit because your Heroic Strike is basically free and it hits like a truck. A lot of times it's going to be one of your highest damaging abilities if you're queuing it with all of your abilities, right? So you're actually hitting with Heroic Strike and a Slam, Heroic Strike and a Bloodthirst, Heroic Strike and a Whirlwind. And let's talk about that priority when we get into our rotations as well, because you're always going to want to prioritize Whirlwind first, get that on cooldown. Then you're going to want to have your instant slams if they're up. And then finally, you're going to have your Bloodthirst. And you're going to queue all 3 of those abilities with Heroic Strike if you're at 35 plus rage. That's how I do it. And I'm out DPSing 5K gear scored Fury Warriors at 45, 4,600 because I'm just getting more Heroic Strikes off and I'm building more rage back by unqueuing my Heroic Strike if it's going to rage starve me, right? So you have to kind of know how to do that and how to have that feel on your Fury Warrior. Next, we're going 2 out of 2 Impale, 3 to 3 Deep Wounds. Deep Wounds is awesome in Wrath of the Lich King. You definitely want it in Fury. And since we're using two-handed weapons in Fury and Wrath, we're going to go 3 out of 3 two-handed weapon specialization. Let's jump over to the glyphs and talk about what we take in Fury. I go Glyph of Whirlwind, which is reducing the cooldown of the Whirlwind ability by 2 seconds. You saw we get 30% extra Whirlwind damage out of the Fury talent tree. Of course, we're going to want to hit that button more because it hits with both of your weapons, right? In a Whirlwind of Steel, you attack up to 4 enemies within 8 yards, causing weapon damage from both melee weapons to each enemy. So it's absolutely huge to use this ability as much as humanly possible in single target and obviously in AoE. So this is your most important glyph in my opinion for Fury. Next, I take Glyph of Heroic Strike. You gain 10 rage when you critically strike with your Heroic Strike ability. Your Heroic Strike ability is critting very often, right? At 4,600 gear score, I'm over 40% critical strike. without any raid buffs on me. Yeah, you're critical striking an awful lot. It almost makes heroic strike free. And again, this is how you're going to tell a good Fury Warrior, by how many times they can land heroic strike in unison with other abilities, and not rage starve themselves. That's the feel that you're going to have to learn the most on Fury, and it feels super, super good. Then from there, Glyph of Execution. Your execute ability deals damage as if you had 10 additional rage. When you get into execute phase, you're following the same standard rotational priority, which is Whirlwind, Instant Slam, Bloodthirst. That's the way I play it, at least. And it seems to back out, right? It does seem to back out currently. Again, along with those heroic strike Qs, but with Bloodthirst, Whirlwind, and no Instant Slam up, you're just going to do the same queuing mechanism where you queue execute and heroic strike with each other. Again, only bringing heroic strike to full fruition if you're at 35 plus rage. If not, unqueue it before your heroic strike would go off. You know, because heroic strike queuing has always been something that you know, has separated the good Fury Warriors from the mediocre Fury Warriors. So the more you learn how to do it and generate more rage by doing it, you know, the faster essentially you'll get better at Fury, right? You'll have more rage, etc. Now, speaking of rage, in a raid environment, I have not had any issues with rage yet, and I am still very undergeared. You can see I'm only 45-38. In my raids this week, I took home a helmet, the necklace, the shoulder, still using the cape from Nax, a chest plate, still using the bracers, Sentinel Huntress, still using Nax gloves. Bought this off the auction house, Belt of the Titans. Pretty good belt for Fury. Valorous Dread plate, leg plates. I am still using the Nax leg plates. Still using the bladed steel boots, unfortunately. I got a Godbane Signet, which was a nice little come up there. I also got this Crazed Construct ring, but hit the Surge Needle ring is actually simming better, so not using this guy at the moment. Then I did finally grab a Greatness card. So that is new on the Warrior. And I'm using a Mirror of Truth, but I would definitely replace this with a Grim Toll, or even a Blood of the Old Gods, Pyrite Infuser, or obviously the best choice, a Mjolnir's Runestone. And then I got this Nerubian Conqueror out of today's Heroic Plus. The Betrayer I got from a 10-man Nax skip, so this thing seems to drop a lot because I have it on my Unholy DK as well. And I got an Iron Soul tonight from an Ulduar 10-man. So the Warrior is on the way up. Again, right? We went up over 400 gear score in one run. And, you know, there's plenty of best in slot lists out there, but my rule of thumb is when you're coming back, you're just trying to catch up, play the eye level game, play the tier game, right? Go for the upgrades of least resistance. At this point in the phase, there's not going to be a ton of competition for Warrior, Hunter, Shaman tier. So if you can get that 4-piece tier, right, by gunning for that in soft reserve pugs, you know, and GDKPs, if you go that route, I prefer the soft reserve route, but you know, I've been known to tank some GDKPs on this server. But yeah, soft reserve is going to be better for you. Because you will have a chance to reserve that tier, and chances are at this point in the game, there's not going to be many people on your tier token. So that's kind of the gearing route that we go. Again, crit is a huge stat. Hit is very good for us. I'm at like the least amount of hit that I can use before I start hurting my white swings. I think it's like 163 is actually as low as you can go on Fury if you're 3 out of 3 on precision. And then I am actually over execution or expertise cap by a little bit, just by the nature of the way I'm gearing. Gems, I'm still using all strength gems. You know, I need 1 blue, 1 red, and 1 yellow. So that's why I have a yellow in these gloves and the enchanted tier over here on my belt. But yeah, you'll see strength gems everywhere else. So they seem to be simming the best for me. I'm going to assume they're probably simming the best for you as well. Maybe that changes in Trial of the Crusader tier. And maybe that's when we start seeing those armor penetration gems sim a little bit higher. You know, not sure. Again, I've only been back on the Warrior for a week, but I wanted to put a guide out because, again, I'm smashing these 5K gear score Fury Warriors in these pugs that I'm in at only 4,500 gear score, 219 item level. And that's because I know the rotation like the back of my hand. You know, and you just have to, again, get very comfortable with that heroic strike queuing. Now let's talk like weak auras and add-ons, because, you know, I'm big into the weak aura game now. I've changed up the weak auras that I use. I've actually edited Luxthos's weak auras. Whoops, /WA. And I'll drop this in my Discord. I have some other rogue weak auras rocking here as well. But these warrior weak auras are awesome because you can come in here and customize the entire setup, right? I like mine to look a certain way and be a lot smaller than his default package. So yeah, you come into your Luxthos Warrior Weak Aura, go to your custom options, and you can play with icon sizes, you know, global styles. You can mess with borders here. You know, again, more icon sizes, you can tell, you know, the weak aura, how many icons you want on a row. I think it comes default with 8, but it looks kind of absurd, and it's giving you, you know, a look at icons that you don't really need. So I trimmed it down to 6, and I went with more of like a rectangular shaped icon just by playing with the width and the height. You can see my width is 40, my height is 32, my number of icons are 6. So I'll drop this weak aura in my Discord. Luxthos has a great video on how you can customize any of his weak auras. I think the guy has done more for weak auras than I ever could. So I fully endorse and will only use Luxthos weak auras moving forward outside of my rogue weak auras, which I do enjoy. Now you're going to see that I also have this glove weak aura. This is another one I took off of Wago. My favorite part of this glove weak aura is that it plays that goofy sound. So yeah, when my gloves are available to use, right, that sound will go off, and I'll know instinctively to hit one of my 3 macros, Alt 1, Alt 2, or Alt 3, to get that rolling if it makes sense at the time. With Fury Warrior, it's not really like Unholy DK where you're, you know, holding cooldowns like your glove cooldown for a very specific rotational opener, right? So you're just kind of, you know, if it's there, if it's available, you want to use those cooldowns. You know, it's always better to stack your cooldowns with lust, but if you're lusting, you know, like 10, 15 seconds into the fight, you're going to use it all together. If you're lusting a minute and a half into the fight, you know, you can get an extra use of your gloves that, you know, you would not have gotten if you did not use it right at the pull. So I try to use them as much as possible, depending on lust timings in the fight. You know, XT is a great example where hard mode XT rather, where you can get a use of the engineering gloves before, like, and then have the glove cooldown back up for the you know, the lust phase that happens after you kill the heart, right? So most people lust on the first tantrum after the heart. That is more than a minute into the fight generally, and you will get a second use of your gloves there. So you can use your gloves on pull. You don't have to hold them. I wouldn't use Death Wish or, you know, your Recklessness macro, but you could definitely use like what I use as a Blood Rage macro, which is just Blood Rage, use 10, and use 13 if I'm using an on-use trinket, because I was using Bandits. The heck was I using? I was using Lotheb Shadow actually for a little while in this slot. It was a solid trinket, but I kind of prefer Mirror of Truth. You know, I just like the procs more in Fury, because you don't really need an on use in Fury. It's just about fast and furious damage, right? What's the opener look like, right? You can charge in, throw up a Rend, and then go right into your Fury, pop your Blood Rage macro, Death Wish, everything going. Now you're Heroic Striking. Whoops. Again, Heroic Strike and rocking it with Slam. Have Heroic Strike queued up. Have Heroic Strike queued up. Now we're a little bit low. Came off a Heroic Strike there. I still have to get my swing timer back. But anyway, this, you know, you can see it's solid damage. It's a good time. But it's Whirlwind, Slam, Bloodthirst. And again, right, if you really want to, you could, and you're not going to get one shot, charge in, Rend, and then go into your Berserker stance, get that Whirlwind on cooldown, right? Boom. And you saw how right there, that was the perfect example of a Heroic Strike Q. So what I did there was I had my Heroic Strike down when I knew I was about to swing again, because do I even have swing timers on this? I don't. No, I don't. But anyway, I'm very used to playing with them, and I kind of have the feel for it, especially once I'm in a raid and I'm kind of grooving. But basically, you're going to Heroic Strike down, right? And then come off of Heroic Strike, and you're going to see your main hand hit as though you had, you know, as though you had, excuse me, your offhand will hit and have no chance to miss there. So the Heroic Strike Q is pretty nice, right? If you're around 30 rage and you don't want to let it go off because you might get rage starve, you know, bring it down for a sec and then have it come up right before your attack is going to go off, right? Your main hand attack is going to go off. So enjoy it, guys. That's the Fury Warrior guide. I obviously have to get my swing timer working again. I haven't even realized I haven't been playing with one. But honestly, at 4,500 gear score, and I'm sure 500 gear score higher, Fury just feels very, very good overall. You'll be cracking. If you're in the right raid, you'll have full 99s rocking that simple priority. You know, and again, you don't even have to come in with the Rend at all, right? Boom. See that Q? Big Q. Now we have it. We can rock it with Bloodthirst, rock it into the Whirlwind, rock it into the Slam. I'm off. Boom. And we get more Fury. Bada bing, bada boom. So those are a few more Heroic Strike Qs for you, where you bring it down, come off when your attack's about to go off, and you're just building up that extra Fury very quickly. So you guys got a couple great examples of Heroic Strike Q. And, you know, you don't even need a swing timer for it. Once you get the feel down, you can kind of just, you know, feel it a little bit, right? If you have your swing timers going, though, much easier. Much, much easier. So, yeah. That's it, boys. That's the Fury Warrior guide. I hope you enjoyed it. If you got your warrior sitting on the back burner, dust him off. Now is the time to bring him out. Trial of the Crusaders coming out. The Onyxia raids coming out. Heroic Plus. Ulduar is still going to be relevant throughout the entire next tier. So people will still be running that. You will get these warriors caught up. And let's not forget, in PvP, they're still the best class in the game. I will definitely have some PvP videos and PvP focused guides for you guys as we go into this season. I'll also have a combat rogue guide, an assassination rogue guide, and an unholy DK guide because I've been, you know, kind of jamming on those in the last couple weeks as well. But I am maining the warrior going forward and bringing warrior life back into this channel. I'm sorry it's been so long, but the undead Bis warrior is here to stay, guys. Have a good day, have a good week, have a good month, and have a great year. Tomato Saucin is out. Warrior is back in Wrath of the Lich King Classic. Take it easy, guys.